Rain misted off the pavement as Nia Carter stepped out of the rideshare, clutching the worn leather folder that held her sheet music. Her voice audition at the downtown art hall was in 20 minutes. She inhaled slowly, grounding herself the way her vocal coach taught. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. Her nerves weren't about the audition. Not today. A patrol car rolled up beside her, tires hissing on the wet curb. The window slid down. Officer Kellen Price, broad shoulders, clipped blonde hair, jaw locked tight, glared at her as if she had already done something wrong. "ID," he barked. No greeting. No reason. Nia froze, heartbeat slipping into a shallow flutter. I'm just heading to an audition across the street." "That wasn't the question," he snapped. People walking by kept moving, eyes lowered. The drizzle felt colder suddenly, heavier, as if the air itself were warning her to stay small. Nia handed her ID through trembling fingers. Price snatched it, staring at the card, then at her, then back again. His lip curled. "You sure this is yours?" The line hit her like a slap. She'd heard it before, too many times, but tonight, standing alone beside a police cruiser in the rain, it cut deeper. Before she could answer, Price stepped out of the car, hand on his belt. He said, voice dripping suspicion, "I'm gonna need to search your bag." Nia's breath caught. Her sheet music folder slipped from her hands and hit the pavement. And in that instant, before she could speak, move, or protest, everything changed. The rain had turned the sidewalk into a mirror, thin puddles catching the glow of street lamps as Nia Carter hurried across the crosswalk. She clutched her folder close, shielding the sheet music from the drizzle. Her audition time was creeping dangerously close, and the building's glass doors were only a few steps away. Then she heard the sharp chirp of a police siren. Nia froze as a patrol car pulled beside her, rolling to a slow stop. The window lowered, and she saw Officer Kellen Price staring out, eyes narrowed with immediate suspicion. "You," he said, nodding at her bag. "Step over here." Nia swallowed. "Is something wrong?" "Did I ask for commentary?" His tone cut the air like a blade. A few people glanced over, then just as quickly pretended not to notice. Nia stepped toward the cruiser, keeping her movements calm, measured. "I'm on my way to an audition. I'm running a little late." "Bag," Price repeated, tapping 2 fingers against the door. "Hand it over." Her chest tightened. "Officer, may I ask why?" "You're acting nervous," he snapped. "Suspicious. And you're loitering." "I'm not loitering." "Bag." His voice was louder this time. Harder. Nia slowly extended the worn black bag. Price snatched it and dropped it onto the hood of the car, unzipping it with exaggerated force. "I have sheet music in there," she whispered. "Ham. He rummaged without care, flipping through everything. Lip balm, headphones, her small thermos, and finally the folder holding her songs. He pulled out the papers, letting the thin pages flutter in the damp breeze. Nia's breath caught. "Please, those can't get wet." But a page slipped free and drifted toward the pavement. Nia instinctively stepped forward, but Price held out a hand to stop her. "Stay where you are." Her heart punched against her ribs. She could feel her audition slipping away in real time. A man passing by paused, pulling out his phone. Is everything all right?" he asked. Price's head whipped toward him. "Move along." "I just thought maybe." "I said move along," Price repeated, stepping forward. The man hesitated, then backed off, tucking his phone into his jacket. The rain thickened, pattering harder against the cruiser, against the papers in Price's hands. A second page slid free and landed in a puddle. Ink bled instantly. Nia's throat tightened. "Officer, please, I need those." Price looked at her with an expression that hovered between annoyance and disdain. "Relax. If you're not hiding anything, you've got nothing to worry about." A second police car approached. Officer Ramirez stepped out, brow furrowed. "Price? What's going on?" "Routine check," Price replied curtly. Ramirez glanced at Nia, her trembling hands, the scattered papers, the soaked page at her feet. "She's, what, a threat?" Price stiffened. "I had reasonable suspicion." Ramirez didn't respond, but his silence said enough. Price shoved the items back into a bag with little care. "You're free to go," he muttered. "Free to go," as if she'd been detained for a crime. Nia reached for the folder, but it was already warped by the rain. She gathered the loose pages from the hood, her fingers cold and shaking. Price didn't offer help. Neither did anyone passing by. She stepped away on unsteady legs, forcing herself not to cry. Not here. Not now. Inside the building lobby, warm air brushed against her damp skin. The receptionist stared at her disheveled appearance. "You're here for the 7:30 audition." Nia nodded, unable to speak. "You're late," the woman said gently, "but I'll let them know you're coming in." Nia wiped her palms on her thighs, breathing deeply, but her voice quivered even before she stepped into the dim-lit audition room. 3 judges looked up. "Whenever you're ready," one said softly. Nia opened her mouth. The note cracked. Her hands tightened around the ruined folder. Outside, the rain hit the window like soft applause, mocking the only thing she had left, her voice. And tonight, even that felt stolen. The hallway outside the audition room was colder than the lobby, narrow and echoing with footsteps from other singers who had already finished. Some chattered softly, clutching their folders or phones. Others paced with restless confidence. Nia stood among them like a statue, rainwater dripping from her curls onto the floor, the soggy sheet music pressed tightly against her chest. Her throat still burned from the failed note. She tried to swallow, but it felt like her voice had lodged itself behind a wall of fear. When the door finally opened, one of the judges leaned out. "Thank you, Miss Carter. We'll be in touch." His voice was kind, but the phrasing was final, a soft dismissal. Nia nodded. She didn't trust herself to speak. As soon as she stepped into the lobby, she pulled out her phone and walked outside, away from the hum of conversations. The rain had slowed to a mist, leaving the air cool and sharp. She hit Maya's name. The phone barely rang once. "Hey, superstar, how'd it?" Maya began. Nia's breath broke. "Maya, I couldn't sing." "What? Why? What happened?" "He stopped me." Nia's voice cracked again, lower this time. "The officer. He pulled me over on the sidewalk, searched my bag, threw my music around. Ramirez showed up, but it was too late. Everything was wet. I was shaking the whole time." There was a harsh silence on the other end. Maya inhaled sharply. "Nia, are you serious? Again?" "I tried to keep calm," she whispered. "I really did. You need to file a report." "I'm tired, Maya." Her voice wavered. "I'm tired of reporting things that don't go anywhere." Maya didn't respond immediately. When she spoke, her voice had softened. "Come to my apartment. I'll make tea. We'll talk it through." "I can't. I need a..." "Nia, I'll call you later." She hung up before her resolve broke completely. Nia moved to a bench under an awning near the building. The rain smell lingered, mixed with the scent of wet grass and hot pavement. A hollow ache settled in her chest, heavier than humiliation, something closer to grief. Not for the audition, but for the familiar, suffocating repetition of it all. The door behind her opened. A short woman in a plum-colored blazer stepped out, carrying a stack of programs. She paused when she noticed Nia. "You were in the last slot, right?" the woman asked gently. Nia straightened. "Yes. I heard the disruption outside earlier." Her eyes drifted to the warped music folder. "Rough night, huh?" Nia exhaled softly. "Something like that." The woman hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Look, these auditions are political. Timing, mood, sponsorships. But I'll tell you something honest. You walked in like someone who sings with purpose. That matters." Nia stared at her, unsure how to respond. The woman shifted her stack of programs and continued. "There's another event happening soon. Anonymous auditions. No faces, just voices. The organizers want raw talent without bias. No names, no backstories. If you're interested, I can send you the link." Anonymous. The word settled over Nia like a soft blanket. "Why are you telling me this?" Nia asked. The woman shrugged. "I used to sing too. I know what it feels like when the world tries to take your voice before you even get to use it. Nia swallowed the lump in her throat. I'll take the link, she whispered. The woman smiled, tapping her phone. What's your number? As Nia gave it, a faint sense of warmth returned to her chest, something tiny, fragile, but still alive. After the woman left, Nia sat for a long moment, feeling the mist settle coolly on her skin, listening to cars pass, doors close, voices fade. Her phone buzzed. Link, anonymous voice selection, confidential. Nia stared at it. She didn't know what this opportunity really was. She didn't know who was running it. She didn't know if she had any chance at all. But it was one thing she hadn't lost yet. Her voice. She pulled in a slow breath, closed a damaged folder, and stood. If she couldn't be seen without being judged, maybe she could be heard. And this time, no rain, no officer, no suspicion, not even fear, was going to stop the sound from coming out. Officer Kellen Price sat behind the wheel of his cruiser the next morning, tapping his fingers impatiently against the steering wheel. The glow of the dashboard lights reflected off his sharp features, casting restless shadows under his eyes. He hadn't slept well, not because of guilt, but because the department had requested clarification about his stop the night before. Ramirez sat beside him, flipping through the patrol log. They want your report, he said quietly. I wrote it, Price replied. You wrote 3 lines. It was a simple stop. Ramirez closed the logbook. Kellen, it didn't look simple. Price shot him a glare. You siding with the complaints now. There weren't complaints, Ramirez corrected. Just concerns. Price scoffed. Same thing. The radio crackled. A call came in about a suspicious individual outside a hardware store. Price grabbed the MIC before Ramirez could respond and said, Unit 12 en route. Minutes later, they pulled into the small parking lot behind the store. A middle-aged black man was loading lumber into the back of his pickup. His clothes were dusty, work-worn. A tape measure hung from his belt. Price stepped out before the cruiser stopped fully. Sir, what are you doing here? The man looked up, confused. Buying supplies. Price approached with the same rigid shoulders, same hard stare he'd used on Nia. We got a call about suspicious behavior. Suspicious? The man wiped his forehead. I'm building a fence. ID, Price demanded. Ramirez stepped forward, less aggressively. Sir, ignore the tone. We're just responding to a call. You the property owner? Yeah, the man answered, handing Ramirez his ID. Lived here 15 years. Ramirez nodded. All right, you're clear. Price frowned. You're not going to check the truck. Ramirez's voice sharpened. For what? He's literally holding store receipts. Price muttered something under his breath and walked back to the cruiser. The man shook his head. Every time. Can't even fix my own yard, he murmured to Ramirez. Ramirez offered a quiet apology before returning to the car. As soon as he sat down, he turned to Price. What was that? What was what? You escalate before you think. I follow procedure. That's not procedure, and you know it. Price clenched his jaw. You done lecturing me. Ramirez didn't answer. He stared out the window, the weight of frustration settling on his shoulders. He was young, idealistic when he joined the force, believed in fairness, community trust, all the things they taught in training. But he'd seen enough in the past few months to know Price wasn't just a tough officer. There was a pattern, a consistent one. Back at the precinct, Price typed half-heartedly at his computer while Ramirez filled out his portion of the day's report. Across the room, 2 detectives spoke softly with internal affairs investigators. Price noticed. What are they doing here? He demanded. Ramirez didn't look up, probably following up on that incident downtown. Price froze, fingers hovering above the keyboard. The one from last night. Yeah, the girl. Someone spotted a guy recording it. Price leaned back slowly. You think they're after me? Ramirez shrugged. I think they're doing their job. Price's voice dropped to a low growl. It was a routine stop. For what? Walking to a building. Ramirez asked sharply. You know how it looked. Kellen. Price slammed his hands down on the desk. A few officers glanced over. Ramirez sighed. Look, I'm trying to help you. IA doesn't show up unless there's a pattern. Price said nothing. Ramirez continued in a low voice. You had 6 stops questioned in the last 2 months. 6. And they all look the same. Price's glare hardened. You think I'm targeting people. I think you react to certain people differently, Ramirez replied carefully. And now it's catching up to you. Price opened his mouth, then closed it. His face tightened. He turned back to his report, typing aggressively. Across the room, an IA investigator lifted a folder with Price's name on the tab. Ramirez saw it. Price did too. A quiet tension filled the air, the kind that settles right before a storm breaks. And Price, for the first time, realized the storm wasn't going away. The building for the anonymous audition looked nothing like the downtown arts hall. It wasn't polished or grand. It was a converted warehouse with blacked-out windows, tucked between a mechanic's shop and a photography studio. But when Nia stepped inside, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. The lobby was dim and quiet, lit only by a line of warm overhead bulbs. A sign taped to the wall read, No names, no backgrounds, just voice. Nia exhaled, shoulders dropping slightly. For the first time in days, the tension in her body loosened. A volunteer approached her, a man with a clipboard and soft eyes. You're here for the voice cycle? Yes. Great. You will be behind a curtain. Judges won't see you. They'll only hear you. No introductions, no explanations. Just sing when the light turns blue. Nia nodded, clutching the repaired folder she tried all morning to flatten. Some pages were still wrinkled, but they were readable. Her voice, she didn't know yet, but she was here. She followed the volunteer down a narrow hallway. Each step muffled the world outside, the lights, the noise, the memory of Price's voice echoing in her head. At the end of the hall stood a small stage with a thick velvet curtain drawn all the way across. She heard faint music from the other side, someone finishing their piece. Then applause, not loud, but warm. Next, called a voice. The volunteer gestured. You're up. Nia stepped toward the curtain, but her body hesitated. The memory of the audition 2 days earlier, the cracked note, the judge's sympathetic eyes, flared like a burn. She closed her eyes. Not now. Not again. She placed one hand on her chest and inhaled slowly. In for 4, hold, release. When she opened her eyes, the hesitation had softened. She stepped behind the curtain. The stage was small, just enough space for one microphone and a single spotlight. The judges' silhouettes were visible only as dark shapes through the fabric. A soft chime echoed above her. Then the light turned blue. Nia lifted the microphone, but no words came. 2 seconds passed. 3. Whenever you're ready, a judge's voice murmured through a speaker. Nia closed her eyes and began. The first notes trickled out carefully, almost like she was testing the air. Then her voice found its center, quiet but steady. She sang the song she wrote during the hardest year of her life, a ballad about losing and finding herself again. As the melody grew, so did her strength. Her voice rose, smooth, deep, warm, filling the small stage and slipping through the curtain. Raw emotion carried each line, the fear, the weight of silence, the crack she tried to hide. Behind the curtain, someone whispered, Beautiful. Nia didn't hear it. She was somewhere else entirely, inside the song, inside the memory, inside the piece of her soul she refused to let the world take. Her final note floated into the room like a soft glow before fading into the stillness. Silence held for a heartbeat, then another, then light applause. Not explosive, but genuine. Thank you, a judge said. Their tone was different now, reverent, attentive. Nia lowered the microphone, feeling her lungs expand with something warm, almost electric. You may exit through the left door, another judge said. Nia walked off stage and followed the hallway to a small waiting area. A few other singers sat there, some humming scales, some scrolling their phones nervously. Nia wasn't nervous anymore. For the first time in days, she felt whole. Minutes stretched. One by one, other singers finished. Finally, a woman with a headset entered. We're announcing the shortlist. Everyone stood. The woman read names in a calm, steady voice. 5 singers. And the final shortlisted performer is number 14. Nia blinked. She looked down at the small sticker on her sleeve. 14. Her breath caught in her throat. You may leave for today, the woman said. We'll contact finalists within 48 hours. Nia walked outside into the afternoon sun. The sky was clear, washed clean after the storm. She didn't smile right away. She just stood there, letting the warmth settle over her skin. 2 days ago, she couldn't get a note out. Today, she had been heard, truly heard, and she wasn't done yet. The video appeared online just after sunrise, posted by an anonymous account with no profile picture, no bio, nothing to trace. It was only 43 seconds long, grainy and unsteady, recorded from across the street. But it captured everything that mattered. Nia standing in the rain, Price rifling through her bag, the sheet music hitting the hood. Price's curt voice. If you're not hiding anything, you've got nothing to worry about. By noon, the clip had been shared 10,000 times. By evening, 20,000. And by the next morning, Nia's phone vibrated so constantly she thought it might burn through her pocket. She sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the screen as notifications flooded in. Is this you? Girl, file a report right now. This is unacceptable. Your strength. I'm so sorry you went through this. Her throat tightened. She hadn't planned to be seen. She hadn't planned to become a symbol of anything. She hadn't even planned to talk about the incident again. But now the world was watching. Her best friend Maya called. Video call. No warning. Nia answered reluctantly. Maya's face filled the screen, eyes wide with disbelief. Nia, you're viral. I saw. Have you read the comments? People are outraged. They are tagging the precinct, the mayor, everybody. Nia rubbed her forehead. I didn't want this. I know, but maybe it's good. Maybe now people won't ignore it. Maya leaned closer to the camera. Are you okay? Nia hesitated. I don't know. A sharp knock rattled her door. Her stomach flipped. Hold on. She stood, approaching the door slowly. Through the peephole, she saw no one, just a thin envelope taped carefully to the frame. She pulled it off and opened it. Inside was a small printed notice. Internal Affairs, Request for Statement Incident Date, Tuesday, 7:34 p.m. Subject Officer, Kellen Price. Her breath hitched. Maya's voice echoed faintly from her phone. Nia, what's happening? Nia returned to the table and held up the paper. IA wants a statement. Maya exhaled hard. Girl, they're actually taking this seriously. Nia didn't smile. Her hands trembled too much for that. Meanwhile, at the precinct, Officer Price stood stiffly in front of a screen displaying the same viral video. His captain, a stern woman with clipped gray hair, watched him with narrowed eyes. Explain, she said. Price swallowed. It's out of context. Really? Because it looks like an unnecessary stop. The reporter left out the beginning. What beginning? The captain asked coldly. The video starts with you demanding her bag. Price's jaw tightened. I had reasonable suspicion. Based on... He didn't answer. Officer Ramirez stood against the wall with his arms crossed, eyes sharp. He didn't interrupt, but Price felt his presence like a spotlight. The captain sighed. IA is opening a case. Effective immediately, you're placed on desk duty. Price's face flushed red. You're going to punish me based on a video. We're investigating, she corrected. Your job is not punishment. It's procedure. Price's voice dropped to a bitter growl. This whole thing is ridiculous. Ramirez finally spoke. No, Kellen, what's ridiculous is acting like this came out of nowhere. Price whipped toward him. You think she didn't exaggerate. She didn't even post a video. Ramirez said quietly. Someone else did. Someone who thought the truth deserved to be seen. Price stared. Confusion flickered behind his eyes. Confusion and something darker. Faye. Back at Nia's apartment. Nia sat with her laptop open, watching the video for the first time. Her stomach twisted at the sight of herself. Small, soaked, shaking. She remembered the cold rain, but the video made her look even smaller than she had felt. She paused the screen on her own face and whispered, "Is that really me?" Her phone buzzed again, this time with an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered, "Hello." A calm voice responded, "Ms. Carter, this is Marcus Lee with the Cultural Events Commission. I'm calling regarding the anonymous audition you participated in." Nia straightened. "We wanted to inform you," he continued gently, "that you have advanced to the final selection round. We'll provide details soon." Nia's breath caught. Thank you. Thank you so much." She hung up and pressed both hands to her mouth. Her phone vibrated again. Maya texted, "Told you, storms don't erase voices. They reveal them." Nia didn't reply right away. She stared at the IA notice, the viral video, the email confirming her final round audition. 3 different worlds colliding at once. 3 different versions of her life, all demanding something from her. She inhaled slowly, steadying herself. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't sure whether she was afraid or finally being heard. 2 days passed slowly, long, quiet hours where Nia floated between hope and fear. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped. She practiced scales in the morning, stopped midway when emotion tightened her throat, then tried again at night. Some notes fell apart. Others rose beautifully. It was a fragile balance. On the 3rd morning, the call finally came. Nia was sitting on her couch, wrapped in a blanket, scrolling through messages she still hadn't answered. When the unfamiliar number lit up her screen, she steadied herself and answered, "Hello, Ms. Carter." The voice was warm, composed. "This is Naomi Blackwell from the Cultural Events Commission. Congratulations, you've made it to the final round of our selection." Nia pressed a hand to her chest. Thank you so much." "We'd like you to come in today," Naomi continued. "Private stage. No audience except the panel. 3 minutes. Sing anything you like." "Today?" "Only if you're ready." Nia closed her eyes and let out a trembling breath. Maybe she wasn't ready. Maybe the fear of freezing again still lurked in the corners of her throat. But the opportunity was here, right now, and she refused to lose it to fear. "Yes," she whispered, "I'm ready." At the private audition studio. The building was sleek, minimalist, glass walls, soft lighting, soundproof doors. Nothing about it felt intimidating. It felt peaceful. A receptionist guided her to a small warm-up room. Nia stood in front of the mirror, smoothing her curls, adjusting her shirt. Her fingers were cold, but her eyes looked steadier than the last time she'd faced stage. A soft knock came at the door. Naomi Blackwell stepped in, a woman with silver-streaked hair, alert eyes, and a confident presence. "Nia Carter," she said with a smile. "It's good to meet you in person." "You too," Nia replied softly. Naomi studied her for a moment. "I heard your anonymous performance. It was striking, emotionally grounded, technically controlled. But I want to see you. The real you." Nia swallowed. "I'll do my best." Naomi gestured toward the hallway. "Follow me." The final round. The stage was intimate, a single spotlight, a black floor, and 3 judges seated a few feet away. No curtain this time. No anonymity. Nia's pulse quickened. Naomi stood beside the judges. "Whenever you're ready." Nia stepped forward. The microphone was warm from the previous singer. She closed her eyes, not to hide, but to focus. This time, the fear didn't choke her. It hummed quietly beneath her ribs, but it didn't overpower her. She began. Her voice opened with a low, rich tone, a soft hum that transitioned into the first line of a song she wrote last year, one she'd never performed publicly. It was a piece about choosing to rise even when the world tried to press you down. She wrote it after a night she spent crying alone in her car after another unjust traffic stop. But today, singing it felt different. Stronger, brighter. Her voice rose, smooth as honey, then soared higher, filling the room without effort. She didn't think about the judges. She didn't think about price. She didn't think about the viral video or the comments or the fear that lived beneath her skin. She thought about breath, about warmth, about reclaiming something she'd nearly lost. When the final note drifted into the stillness, she didn't move. For a moment, she let the silence hold her. Then she opened her eyes. The judges sat frozen, surprised, impressed, moved. Naomi was the first to speak. "Thank you, Nia." Her voice was soft, but reverent. Another judge cleared his throat. "We'll be making our decision soon. You may step outside to wait." Nia nodded and exited, her knees suddenly weak. She stood alone in the hallway, back against the cool wall, breath shaking with a mixture of relief and disbelief. Minutes passed. Then Naomi opened the door and approached her slowly. "Nia." "Why, yes." Naomi smiled, her eyes warm. "We'd like to formally offer you the featured performance at the annual White House Cultural Ceremony." The words hit Nia like a wave. White House. Cultural Ceremony. Huh. She covered her mouth, stunned. I don't know what to say." "Then just breathe," Naomi said gently, "and accept." Nia nodded, tiny at first, then with growing certainty. Tears pricked her eyes. She wasn't just being heard. She was being chosen. Officer Kellen Price sat at his temporary desk in the precinct, a small metal table wedged between filing cabinets, far from the bustle of the main floor. Desk duty. Administrative assignments. The humiliation simmered under his skin like a fever. Every tap of a keyboard around him felt like a taunt. Every whisper felt like judgment. On the corner of his desk lay a printed memo stamped with bold black letters. "Internal Affairs. Investigation pending." Price glared at it as if he could burn a hole through the page. Across the room, Officer Ramirez spoke quietly with two IA investigators, Thompson and Velasquez. Price watched them, jaw clenched so tight it ached. Finally, Ramirez approached him. "We need to talk," Ramirez said. Price didn't look up. "I'm busy." "You're entering dates into a database," Ramirez replied calmly. "You can pause." Price's fingers stilled. He exhaled sharply, swiveled his chair around, and faced Ramirez with a scowl. "Well, say what you came to say." Ramirez studied him for a long moment. "IA asked me what I saw that night." Price smirked bitterly. "Let me guess, you threw me under the bus." "No," Ramirez said. "I told them the truth. That the stop didn't look justified." Price stood abruptly. "You and everyone else buying into that edited clip." "It's not edited, Kellen. You weren't even there for the beginning." Ramirez's voice lowered. "Because there was no beginning." Price's mouth tightened. Ramirez gestured toward the IA office. "Thompson says they received similar complaints. People saying you escalated situations for no reason. They're connecting dots." Price jabbed a finger at him. "Don't pretend you're perfect." "I'm not. But when I mess up, I don't double down on it and pretend it never happened." Price scoffed and turned away. "I don't need a lecture." Ramirez sighed. "I'm not lecturing you. I'm telling you the department is changing. IA is pushing for accountability. And the video of you with that singer." "Don't call her that," Price snapped. "She's just." "What?" Ramirez asked quietly. "Just what, Kellen?" Price opened his mouth but found no words. His jaw worked in silence before he muttered, "Forget it." "You know what I think." Ramirez continued. "You didn't just make a mistake. You made the same mistake too many times. And now people are watching." Price's shoulders stiffened. He could feel heat rising in his face. "You think IA is just going to shrug and move on?" Ramirez asked. "They are serious. They're interviewing witnesses, reviewing footage. That video, people have strong opinions about it." Price felt something ugly twist inside him. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You cross a line." "You don't know what it's like out there," Price growled. "The pressure, the risk, the split-second judgments." "I do know," Ramirez said firmly. "But stopping a woman walking to an audition, dumping her belongings in the street, that wasn't split-second. That was choice." Price clenched his fists. Ramirez softened slightly. "Look, I didn't want this for you. You're my partner. I was hoping you'd take a step back and look at your behavior. But instead you're acting like everyone's out to get you." Price's voice dropped to a whisper. "Maybe they are." Ramirez blinked. What? I see the looks, Price muttered. People think I'm some monster. IA is sniffing around my old stops. They are treating me like I'm guilty. Ramirez sighed. They are doing their job, and you need to do yours. Take responsibility. Price stared at the floor, eyes dark and unfocused. Across the room, the captain called out, Price, IA wants to see you. Price's stomach turned. Ramirez touched his arm. Go. Answer their questions honestly. It's the only move you have left. Price pulled his arm away. I don't need your advice. But when he walked toward the IA office, his steps weren't confident. They were slow, heavy, unsteady. Meanwhile, across the city, Nia sat in a quiet cafe with a warm cup of ginger tea between her palms. Her phone buzzed with a message from Naomi. Official press announcement goes out tonight. White House event details will be sent to your email. Congratulations again. Nia's breath caught. Across the room, a television broadcast played local news. A headline flashed. Internal Affairs investigation launched into Officer Kellen Price after viral video. A picture of Price appeared, stern, rigid. Nia stared at the screen for a long moment, the tea cooling in her hands. It wasn't victory, she felt. It wasn't revenge. It was something quieter. A release. The press release went live at exactly 6 p.m. Nia found out the same way everyone else did. Her phone buzzed nonstop, lighting up with messages from numbers she barely recognized. Her social apps exploded with tags, mentions, and reposts. A headline spread across the internet like wildfire. Rising singer Nia Carter selected to perform at the White House Cultural Ceremony. Her photo, taken during her anonymous audition callback, filled the screen, soft lighting, her eyes closed mid-note, her expression calm, powerful, centered. Someone had captured the exact moment she stepped fully into herself. Maya called immediately. Girl, I told you this day was coming. Nia laughed, a small, stunned sound. Maya, it doesn't feel real. It is real. The White House, Nia, you're not just being heard, you're being honored. Nia pressed a hand to her mouth, eyes welling. I just want to do it right. You will, Maya said. You already have. Across the city, inside the precinct, Officer Kellen Price sat stiffly at his desk, scrolling through emails he didn't want to read. Colleagues whispered nearby, not even pretending to be discreet anymore. You see this? One muttered, holding up his phone. That singer in Price's video? She's performing at the White House. No way. Look, it's everywhere. Price froze. Slowly, he pulled out his own phone and typed Nia's name. Her image appeared instantly. Her voice, captured in clips from previous performances, played over short video edits posted by fans celebrating her breakthrough. A stunning, soulful sound filled the room. Price stared at the screen, unmoving. That girl, the one he forced to stand in the rain while he dumped out her belongings, that girl was a national-level performer, a White House performer. His heart hammered, but not from admiration. It was dread. Ramirez approached from behind. You saw it. Price didn't look up. Yeah. She's talented, Ramirez said quietly. Like, really talented. Price's grip tightened around the phone. On the TV mounted in the corner of the precinct, the news anchor narrated. Nia Carter, widely praised for her resilience after a recent police encounter captured on video, has been chosen for one of the highest cultural honors in the country. Officials say a selection represents. Price turned sharply away. Ramirez watched him carefully. Kellen, he said, you understand this looks bad. Price's jaw tightened. It's not my fault she. She what? Ramirez asked. Existed. Price glared. Don't start. But Ramirez didn't back away this time. IA is going to dig deeper. And now that she's a national figure, they're under pressure. Big pressure. Price's stomach twisted again. I didn't know who she was. That's the whole point, Ramirez said softly. You treated her the way you treat a lot of people. You didn't have a reason. You had a bias. Price opened his mouth, but the words crumbled before they formed. For the first time, his usual defenses didn't come easily. They are going to push for stronger disciplinary measures, Ramirez added. They want to show accountability. Price wiped his palms against his uniform, suddenly aware of how sweaty they felt. This wasn't just a department investigation anymore. This was national attention. Meanwhile, Nia prepares. Nia sat on her bed, surrounded by messages from artists she admired, from strangers thanking her, from distant relatives she hadn't heard from in years. But she didn't feel overwhelmed. For the first time in a long time, she felt carried, lifted by something bigger than Faye. Her phone buzzed again. A voicemail from Naomi Blackwell. Nia, we're proud of you. Your song is moving. Your voice is needed. I'll call again tomorrow with the itinerary. Congratulations. Nia listened twice. She lay back, staring at the ceiling. Her apartment was small, quiet, unremarkable. But tonight, it felt like the center of something important. She picked up her notebook, opened to a blank page, wrote one line, I will not shrink. Back at the precinct, one last blow. Price's captain stepped out of her office and approached him. Price, she said flatly, IA is accelerating the investigation. You're to report for a recorded interview tomorrow at 9 a.m. He swallowed hard. Yes. She held his gaze a moment longer. And Kellen, this is serious. Very serious. When she walked away, Price sank into his chair. For once, he didn't feel angry. He felt small. Smaller than the girl he stopped in the rain. Smaller than the truth he tried to deny. And he knew, deep in the place he never let anyone see, that things were about to change, not in his favor. The White House glowed beneath the evening lights, elegant, timeless, surrounded by manicured lawns in quiet anticipation. Cars lined the restricted drive as guests in tailored suits and flowing gowns stepped out, escorted by staff into the grand east entrance. Inside, the atmosphere was hushed but electric. The annual cultural ceremony was one of the most prestigious events of the year, an evening celebrating artistry, heritage, and national unity. Cameramen arranged their equipment, adjusting angles. Musicians tuned their instruments backstage. Presidential aides rushed quietly from room to room. And in a small private dressing area, Nia Carter stood before a mirror, hands resting on the vanity as she tried to steady the excitement humming inside her. Her gown was simple but stunning, a deep sapphire blue that captured the stage light without overpowering her presence. Her curls were pinned softly, framing her face. She looked like herself, but a version she hadn't seen in years. A woman unbroken, a woman rising. Naomi Blackwell entered with a soft knock. You ready? Nia inhaled slowly. I think so. Naomi adjusted a loose curl behind Nia's ear. Remember, tonight isn't about what happened to you. It's about what you chose to become despite it. Nia's throat tightened. Thank you. A coordinator poked his head in. Ms. Carter, 5 minutes. Nia nodded, her palms suddenly warm. Meanwhile, in a living room miles away, Officer Kellen Price sat rigidly on his couch, remote in hand, the glow of the television casting cold light across his face. He told no one he was watching. Not Ramirez. Not anyone from the precinct. The news anchor smiled. And tonight, one of the most anticipated performances will be given by rising singer Nia Carter, whose recent story has already touched millions. Price swallowed hard. Footage from Nia's earlier performances flashed on the screen. Her voice soared, smooth, soulful, powerful. Watching her sing now, knowing how the world viewed her, knowing what he had done, it scraped against him in a way he couldn't put words to. He felt the walls of the room shrink around him. Backstage at the White House, a staff member approached Nia. Ms. Carter, we'll escort you to the stage now. Nia followed, her breath deep but controlled. Musicians nodded as she passed. Camera operators whispered into headsets. She felt the hum of preparation around her, the electric anticipation of live broadcast, of history in motion. When she reached the edge of the stage, the MC finished introducing the previous performer. And now, the MC announced, a voice that has moved hearts across the nation. Please welcome Nia Carter. Applause thundered. Nia stepped into the spotlight. The lights warmed her skin. The room, filled with diplomats, activists, artists, lawmakers, and the president, fell into stillness. She lifted the microphone. Just one breath. Then she began. Her voice emerged soft at first, a gentle thread weaving through the hush. The entire room leaned into the quiet. Then her note rose, steady, polished, layered with emotion that lived beneath the words. She sang the same song from the anonymous audition, a song about fear, a song about being silenced, a song about rising anyway. Her voice filled the ballroom, warm, rich, resonant. Notes swelled and softened, shaping the story she had lived and survived. Some audience members blinked away tears. The president himself leaned forward, hands clasped. And somewhere in the building, her performance was broadcast live across the country, in living rooms, in cafes, in precincts, in the homes of people who had seen the viral video and wondered who she truly was. Tonight, they found out. She hit the final note, a bright, shimmering upper tone that cut through the room like light breaking through clouds, and let it fade into silence. A heartbeat, another, then a standing ovation. Applause erupted, long, loud, insistent, the kind that lifts you off the ground even if your feet never move. Nia lowered her microphone, tears glimmering at the edges of her eyes. She bowed once, deeply, her chest rising with a breath that felt fuller than any she'd ever taken. As she stepped off stage, Naomi met her with shining eyes. "You did it," she whispered. "You truly did it." Nia pressed a hand to her heart. It felt like singing for the first time. Naomi squeezed her shoulder. "And the world heard you." Meanwhile, Price watches. Back on his couch, Price stared at the screen as Nia finished her performance. The standing ovation echoed faintly through the broadcast. Something heavy settled inside him, a weight deeper than fear, a truth he'd refused to face. He whispered, barely audible, "I was wrong." And for the first time, the words didn't feel like weakness. They felt like consequence. Internal Affairs issued its findings on a gray Thursday morning. The report was 26 pages long, filled with timestamps, witness statements, body cam reviews, and cross-reference traffic stop histories. A pattern emerged, quiet in each individual incident, unmistakable when viewed together. 6 questionable stops in 9 weeks. 4 involving people walking to or from workplaces. 3 involving women. All involving black civilians. A pattern. A choice. By noon, Price was called into a closed-door meeting with the captain, 2 IA officers, and the deputy commissioner. He sat stiffly in the single metal chair placed in the center of the room, flanked by silent observers. The deputy commissioner didn't raise his voice. "We've determined you violated department policy. Repeatedly, you escalated without cause, failed to follow de-escalation procedures, and conducted unlawful searches. Effective immediately, you are suspended without pay. Following review, the department will proceed with demotion or termination." The words fell like stones. Price tried to speak, some mixture of defense and anger, but the captain cut him off gently. "You need to take responsibility." His throat tightened. You hurt people," she said, not unkindly, "and now it's time to face it." For the first time, Price didn't argue. He just nodded, eyes lowered. He walked out of the precinct with no applause, no farewells, no partner trailing behind him. Just silence, the kind he had once demanded from others, the kind that now wrapped around him like a consequence he couldn't outrun. Across the city, Nia sat in a small rooftop garden above her friend Maya's apartment. The evening sun cast warm gold across her face, and a soft breeze carried the smell of jasmine from plants surrounding them. Maya passed her a mug of chamomile tea. "You've been quiet." "I'm tired," Nia admitted softly. "In a good way, but still tired." "You deserve rest." Nia nodded. "I keep thinking about the performance. The ovation." My voice didn't crack. "Not once." "That's because you were finally somewhere you belonged." Nia looked out toward the skyline, toward the city that held her struggles and her victories. "I want to remember that feeling. The one on stage. Not the one in the rain." "You don't have to erase one to honor the other," Maya said gently. "You lived both." Nia exhaled slowly. IA released their findings. Price was suspended. Maya froze. "How do you feel about that?" Nia thought for a long moment. Relieved, but not triumphant. The hurt is still there. What happened doesn't disappear because he lost his badge. Maya nodded. Healing takes longer than justice. Nia managed a small smile. Maybe. Her phone buzzed. A text from Naomi. The president requested a copy of your song's lyrics. Congratulations again, Nia. This is only the beginning. Nia's heart fluttered. Only the beginning. She breathed deeply, letting the cool evening air settle into her lungs. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was balancing on the edge of survival. She felt like she had stepped onto solid ground. Meanwhile, Price returns home. His apartment felt foreign, too large, too quiet, too empty. He tossed his keys onto the counter and sank onto the couch. The TV remote lay nearby, but he didn't turn it on. He didn't need the news to tell him what he already knew. He had destroyed his own reputation. Not by accident, not by misunderstanding, but by choices he'd made over and over again. He ran a hand over his face, exhaustion settling into his bones. A notification buzzed on his phone. A headline. White House performer Nia Carter says her voice is finally free. Price stared at the words. Finally free. He whispered to the empty room, I'm sorry. Not to the department. Not to IA. Not even to himself. But to her. A woman he had never allowed himself to see clearly. He didn't know if she'd ever know he said it. But he said it anyway. In the days that followed, community organizations cited Nia's video and performance as a catalyst for reform. Panels discussed policing bias. Youth choirs invited her to speak. Journalists requested interviews. Activists thanked her for speaking publicly about dignity and fear and survival. Nia accepted some invitations, politely declined others. She wasn't trying to be a symbol, but if her voice helped someone else feel seen, she would lend it. Still, she held boundaries. Healing required it. 1 week after her White House performance, Nia walked into a rehearsal studio to prepare for her next event, a charity concert for arts programs in underserved schools. The room was quiet. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows. She stepped onto the small platform at the front of the studio. No officers, no rain, no raised voices, no fear. She inhaled gently, feeling her ribcage expand. And when she sang the first note, her voice filled the space. Warm, whole, powerful. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was steady. It was hers. Final line. On that quiet afternoon, surrounded by sunlight instead of sirens, Nia finally understood. Justice wasn't the sound of someone else falling. It was the sound of her rising.